welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast, and as always, good people, I am in. I didn't hit this. Airplane mode, and now a man who in 2023 had so much free time that nobody would pay him for it, a man who needs no introduction.
Ouch.
A man who apparently has similar free time in 2024.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, we're a bit late, folks. I had some technical difficulties with my glasses, aka they're broken. Yeah, they're just kind of hanging on my face at this point. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. We're going to be talking about do apologetics even matter? No, they don't. All right, folks, that's our show.
Thanks for joining us. Take care of yourselves
and each other.
It's funny. There was a question I answered on Instagram that really wasn't for me because I'm an atheist. The woman wanted to know, is it more important to have faith and live by faith day by day, or to become well studied in the scriptures, or both? And I put in my 2 cents saying, hey, look, I'm an atheist, and I am because I read the Bible. If you read the Bible, you might end up walking down this road. So I said, if you don't want that, just stick to your faith. Don't read it.
Yeah. Don't read it.
Don't get to know it's in there.
Which
is
read
interesting. That might be something that's pretty good as a horror movie one day. Like, whatever you do, don't do that thing you were told to do. Become well versed in the scriptures, which the Bible encourages you to know the scriptures. But I read that in a Gallup poll, I don't know how long ago it was, 1 in 9 Christians has read the whole Bible, and that's roughly 11%, I think it is. That's it. So the rest, over 90%, will profess the religion, but don't bother knowing what's in the manual.
And they're trying to convince us God wrote the book.
Yeah, and Project 2020 wants essentially the Bible's version of Sharia law to be the law of the land here in the United States, which is utterly insane. But get out there and vote, everybody.
Explains why there's so many Christians. Yeah, exactly, Robin. They haven't read it. They haven't read it.
Mm-hmm.
They like the idea of Christianity, but they don't know the realities of Christianity.
Exactly. I'm gonna pull this up on my computer, Jay, so I can see the chat. But continue, please.
Oh, okay. All right, let's get started. Let's jump into this video. Let's see what this guy's got to say. This is a new content creator for me anyway, called Gospelogeian. So let's see what he's got.
Welcome back to the Gospelogian channel. I'm excited to talk about today's topic, and let me just start by this. If I had to ask you, what comes to your mind when you think about apologetics? Most people are like, oh yeah, arguments for Christian existence, but here's one. What comes to mind when you think about yourself and apologetics? Would you consider yourself an apologist? that's why I want to look at the question today. Why do apologetics still matter today? But more than that, I want to look at the relationship between you and apologetics. What relationship should you have with apologetics? And I've got 5 reasons for why I think they still matter. Make sure you watch the video all the way to the end so I can explain them all. And I have a surprising one at the end that I don't think you've actually thought of before.
All right, so my thing is, I think apologetics matter sort of for 2 reasons. Number one is, I think we just live in a time where people are expected to defend their beliefs. And, you know, people are going to ask you about the claims of Christianity, especially people who don't believe them. And I think as soon as you start defending the faith, you're into the land of apologetics. But the other reason is, I just think it's sort of the cat's out of the bag. I just think that it really is the case that most people that are in the faith are getting apologetic defenses of the faith. They may not be seeking them out on YouTube, but just even going to church and listening to the pastor's going to give you a bunch of apologetics. You may not be reading the apologetics, but the pastor is. Your youth group leader is. So it's sort of out there, just even in the sense of people reading Christian books to really to boost their faith. I think that's how they get into apologetics. They get into apologetics thinking that they should be reading the type of things that encourage them to grow in their faith. And I think the apologetics is attractive to them in that regard. So I don't know that we can sort of go back in time to a pre-apologetic world if one ever existed.
That's interesting. We can even read in the Old Testament and the New apologetics for what's already been written previously.
Yes.
So it's really
true.
baked in to the religion itself. For our audience who are non-believers, a lot of times when believers are challenging us and we respond, you probably could line 100 of them up and 70 of them will give you the exact same response if they go to church frequently. And it's because it's the pre-programmed apologetic already in their mind. I'm not saying that to be insulting. It's just really laid out for them often in a very simple way. And here's how you respond to those objections in order to preserve their faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and see. Let's keep going.
So I'm excited to share some of these with you, but number one, apologetics, they are providing a reasoned defense of the Christian faith. That's what apologetics are at their heart. And there's multiple ways you can go about it. There's Reformed apologetics, there's classical apologetics, there's evidentialist apologetics, there's many different styles. And while I lean towards different pros and cons of the different styles, ultimately what matters is that you're able to provide a defense for the faith. But it's not about winning debates. In fact, if you go on my channel, you'll see lots of debates I've had with atheists and people of different beliefs. I don't win a lot of those. In fact, some of them where I'd say I win, they'd say they won too. And so
this is really interesting because from my perspective, Christians never win these debates, ever. They never... I mean, this is one of the things that was very apparent to me when I was deconstructing was, it was really profound to me to watch Christians getting their butt kicked, like in the Hitchens debates and things like that. But it's really interesting to me. Like, I wonder where this guy is really at, like what I would think if I really knew him. Cause it's sort of like, I'd sort of be like, bro, you're setting your audience up for failure in like a massive way. Like, first off, yeah, it is providing a reasoned defense of the faith, but I would think you would know as somebody that's essentially now putting yourself in the apologetics teaching, or at least apologetics coaching, or apologetics encouraging. Like, wouldn't you? It's on you to know that these are losing arguments. It's on you to know that there is no good reasoned defense of the faith. It's on you to know that the apologists that have come before you and your contemporaries have all failed at this very simple task of providing a reasoned defense of the faith. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he thinks he's getting at.
Well, he likely is very sincere about his faith, and maybe the reason he keeps on pushing through is because he doesn't feel he's best equipped for every question that comes his way, but he's certain that Christianity is true, that there's a God, and his prayers might get answered on a fairly regular basis. He might be in an environment where he has this circle of faith around him all the time. So for him, as he walks around in the world, Christianity is extremely valid and comforting and fulfilling for him. So if that's how it is, does it really, I guess in a way like Trump supporters, does it matter what anybody says? If that's how you're viewing things, if that's the world you're living in, and someone's got evidence to the contrary, are you even going to hear it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, that might be where he is.
Yeah. You know what? I think you might be right. When I see somebody like this, it's this pains me, but it's sort of like they're really a very deep liar. Like they're like big time liar, or they're not with it. They're not up to snuff, They don't have the competencies necessary to make heads or tails of arguments and evidence and cases. They're lacking major shit, as one might say. So we'll see. Hey, Sumami.
Who determines the real winner? Really, what apologetics is about is finding a meaningful way to engage with people and invite them into understanding the truth of the gospel. That's what we want to do. We want to show people that, hey, we can talk about our ideas without getting crazy or going all crusader or nuts on you. We want to show people that we're able to have a defense for our faith, provide an answer for the hope that lies within us, and have a reasonable discourse. And so if that's something that you're like, hey, yeah, I think we should be able to do that, you probably know people in your life that don't understand Christianity at all, or they have a really perverted view, or maybe you've been hurt by Christianity. If you've been hurt by Christianity, realize this. Many, many, many other people have been hurt by Christianity too, and they're wondering, what is the relevance of Christianity? Apologetics help us reason those things out. They help us have these conversations and show how reasonable this faith is and be able to invite people into that conversation. And these are just conversations. So first, once we know what apologetics is and why that's important, let's talk about skepticism. In today's culture, there's a lot of tough questions out there. Does God exist? Why is there suffering? The problem of evil. Why did God let this happen? What we want to do is provide clarity amidst confusion. If you're a Christian, you already know that the truth of God's word gives us clarity, gives us structure, gives us organization, and gives us boundaries for how we live our life. It helps us know how we do what we do, and it gives us a reason for living. We want to address a world full of those questions, full of skeptics. Most people are taught from the time they enter school all the way through that there is no God and they should question everything.
Okay. He's just throwing so much out there. He's going like a mile a minute. But he ran through a list of arguments as those arguments are defenses of the faith, when in actuality they are problems for the faith. They are issues that come up that sort of resolve to doubt that there is a God, or at least that there's a God that is an approximation of the Christian God. So yeah, I don't really know what he thinks he's what he thinks he's getting at here. It's really weird. I don't know. Like, I'm starting to see the longer I listen to these people, the more I start to shift into dishonest mode. The more they start to sound like they know exactly what's up, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're just in some sort of space that's I would say holding in tension something between a grift and a cope.
Mm.
You know, part of it is double down on Jesus because, you know, this is who they've made themselves to be. And so this is the only way they can be in the world. And then part of it is coping with the fact that they don't have it.
Yeah, I think there is did you see the movie Memento?
Memento.
Memento.
I don't remember.
Guy Pearce, probably his best acting role. Guys, it's hard, it's tough to describe. Carrie Ann Moss is in it. They're trying to solve a murder. Like, what happened to this guy? And this guy has short-term memory loss, like really bad. You think he does anyway. And he's just lost in his own world in a sense. So I think to some degree, what happens in the movie is when you watch the very end, you get the idea this is a game he plays on people. And he plays it very well, that he has all these problems. He has short-term memory loss, really bad. We, as an audience, we grow to be sympathetic for this guy because you do want to know what all his tattoos mean and all this. He's trying to figure out all these clues to this mystery that for the appearance at the end, wait, did he create this? And he's just trying to take more people out with his dastardly plan. I think to some degree there is in Christians, the idea that I must maintain this belief. Regardless of what occurs, this belief is worth having. I think I'm going to repeat myself when I say they feel it should be true. It's good enough to be true. Whether it is or whether it isn't is secondary because they find elements of it that consistently work. Are there elements that consistently don't? You better believe it. They're not going to lay hands on somebody and heal them. They're not. That'll never happen in most Christians' lifetime, right? Unless they're a surgeon or some sort of nurse or someone, you know, with qualified help. But they're not even as good as the Yanomamo Indian shaman who knows which tree to pick the leaves off of to make a tea to cure somebody for this or that. That guy's had knowledge passed down to him from 1,000 years ago. You know, they don't. They have 2,000-year-old knowledge, but the gift that comes with it is pretty much maybe some peace of mind. That's what you get out of it, not actual ability to accomplish something else.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to pull back just a sec to hear what he says here again.
It helps us know how we do what we do, and it gives us a reason for living. We want to address a world full of those questions, full of skeptics.
It gives us a reason for living. That's
hard to hear. That's hard to hear.
It is. I think with so many of these people, that's what it's really about. There's so much emotional investment in it that there's no real way of like stepping back and thinking about, is this true? Does this make sense? I'm somewhat even wondering if he's read the whole Bible. I think we sort of think for these people to be apologists, they sort of have to have a lot of biblical knowledge, but I'm not really sure. Yeah,
it's interesting when I see all the books that are behind him. Let's assume these are his books. That looks like a library table, maybe. I don't know. But let's assume these are his books and this is his home.
I gotta think it's a green screen.
It might be. It might be. When I'm upstairs in my dining room, it looks fake, but it's. I mean, this is where I live. It's real. It's just somebody made a very nice fireplace once upon a time. If it's not a green screen, right? If it's real, it appears there's an interest in books there, and he may be extremely well read. But one of my high school, well, I know the guy from kindergarten. He was. I admired him so much because he always had a book in his hand if he wasn't running, right? Because he was a distance runner. He always had a book in his hand. And I just like, he must be so smart, smarter than about everybody else because he's got all this knowledge from reading his books. But he's a Christian. And he'll accuse me when I challenge him on what he says by giving another scripture. Oh, you always misunderstand. I'm like, you didn't explain anything. You didn't offer, but I did, right? You didn't give chapter and verse, but I did. And I threw at him, I don't know, it's going around the internet, this 12-year-old kid's arguing with Mike Lindell, and he says to Mike Lindell, who's like this guy, the My Pillow guy, he says, your evidence is trust me, bro. And I just had to quote him because that's what he's saying to his other readers, right? It's just trust me, bro. But why is that good enough? Right? Why is that good enough? This is a major, I'd say, belief in Christianity is not only a life decision that's major, but also if you're tithing, it's a major financial decision.
Definitely.
That money could be going towards your retirement. It could be, to some degree, it probably does do some community service and feed people, but you could do that more directly without paying the overhead, right? People don't typically do that. They don't have the money to spare to do that. So they put their money in the collection plate and they hope it goes to do, good. The good is multiplied because the money is pulled together and it can do bigger things. But as it's kind of terrifying to hear that it's a reason to live. Because if it is not true, right? If it is factually not true, where do people get their next reason to live from? Are they going to just turn to another religion, or are they going to actually look around the world that they live in and say, hey, what do I want to give to the world? What do I want to offer? And let that be their reason to live. Not what do they want to take? Obviously, you want to have experiences like going to see Venice, Italy, and the pyramids, but is there more to it than that for the average believer? I hope so. Somebody wrote Robin Webster got more directly. Oh, I think I'm only seeing part of the comment. But what I see is, why, if Jesus is coming back, do they really need to worry about retirement? Well, the Bible says both things. Like Jesus says, don't save your money for tomorrow. You won't need it. Basically, tomorrow will worry about itself. Because of course he thought the return was imminent and the kingdom of heaven was imminent and the new Jerusalem coming down from the sky was imminent. He was wrong. Elsewhere in the Bible it says, yeah, you should save money so you won't be a burden to people when you get old. The Bible also says the most money, and I forget where this is. I wish I remember where this is. I think it's in Proverbs, or I think it's in Proverbs, where the most money you should have is enough to take care of your family, your children's family, and their children's family. Any more money than that, you should be, you shouldn't keep it. It's just too much, which I find very interesting. But those people had a lot of kids in those days, quite often. So that could be extensive. A lot of talents stacked up. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of what I try to tell people, which is that the ask is not really this lovey-dovey believe in Jesus stuff. That the ask is really to dedicate your life to Christ. And when when they tell you things like this is what gives them hope, meaning, and purpose, it's it becomes a little bit more apparent. the other thing is that it's just scary to me. Like I just don't I don't know what to do anymore. In a sense, I'm becoming even discouraged to engage a lot of these people. I'm 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 becoming more and more inclined to just want them to just go somewhere and play. Just go like fine, like just go over there, you know, go play. Because I don't know what to tell you. Like you're a grown person. You're a grown person, and you want to find a reason defense of miracles. And at the end of the day, it's because of your inability to cope with death. And I know a lot of these people were brainwashed and stuff like that, but at some point it's like you're grown. Like you're grown. What do you
Let me
mean you're not gonna die? Like you just need you take all this stuff on faith because you need to not die. That's childish. What are we talking about?
Well, let me ask you, because you kind of have a front row seat with your grandparents, with how much they dedicated to you, dedicated to religion over their lifetimes. Now they're in a spot where you probably would argue they would be in a much better position if they hadn't given so much away
Oh yeah,
over
definitely.
time. So is that part of your frustration where like I can't even, because again you're trying to convince
That's frustrating,
them maybe.
but also
Okay.
just that there's nothing special for them. You know, they're getting old and dying just like everybody else gets old and dies, and their
Hmm.
body betrays them just the same. There's no even extra dignity in dying like a, you know, a dignified like um death, right? It's just as
Hmm.
ugly and as nasty as you know, anybody else in those final stages of life. And so, you know, you don't even have to say or ask the question, but you can feel the like what did God do for you, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a different situation with my mom. My mom did give a lot of money. She didn't have a lot of money. She gave a high percentage of what she had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
televangelists and things of that nature. That's been stopped now that my sister is managing her money. You're not doing this anymore. But what'd she get out of it other than a little satisfaction and showing her gratitude to the God that she felt had blessed her by allowing the family to get by, right? We just got
Sure.
by, you
Sure.
know. My mom rarely could ever take us to see all her kids to see a movie because
Mm,
we just didn't have the money.
right.
People are taught from the time they enter school all the way through that there is no God and they should question everything.
Oh, okay. This other thing pissed me off too. Nobody's taught that in school.
Yeah,
Nobody's
I
taught
find
that
that
in
very
school.
strange. Yeah, I
Yeah,
find that a
nobody's
very
taught that
strange
in school.
statement.
Not even in public schools. Nobody's taught that. Nobody's taught that. It's so weird. It's so weird. And the smirk. I don't like. Why do Christians know they know that, especially in America, that we're not taught anything other than Christianity, and people are pretty much indoctrinated in Christianity from the gate. Um, and then they act like they're so persecuted. Like it's just so weird. It's such a weird thing to say. It's a very weird thing to do. And it feels, and again, like it it would piss me, it pisses me off, and especially pisses me off when I see, like, I hate to say it, I see white people doing this shit, because you're at once in the most privileged fucking group, and then at the same time acting like you understand what it's like to be persecuted. And and imaginary shit, not even no shit that's really happening, nothing that anybody actually really says to you. Like it's insane to me.
Well, I'm wondering how far we are away from this guy mentioning that there are litter boxes in bathrooms at some middle school somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
And there are kids that want to be considered to be cats and dogs. And, I think he's buying into the idea that when they took prayer out of school, what it means is nobody is allowed to pray. Like no student is permitted to offer a prayer.
Yeah, I've heard this narrative with some people.
So no students allowed to offer, prayer. So I'm getting phone calls and texts like crazy.
It's all
right. He'd be mistaken, of course, to think that kids are still allowed to pray. It's just, administrators and teachers aren't the ones to be leading prayers, getting kids that don't want to pray. That's not part of your education.
Right.
And may I just say, while we're on that, what does it say about the value of the Christian faith if you are a parent that wants it to be taught in school, but you won't teach it at home? Because the chances are most parents aren't teaching their children basic physics in the home. They're not. Pocket Lock, are you frozen?
Yeah,
I think I'm frozen. I think everything is frozen.
No, I'm good. We're good to go.
I don't think that's helping us very much, especially as we look at the rise of mental health.
Can you hear? You can't hear anything? You might have to refresh. I don't know what's going on with him. Let's swap these. All right, is that better?
That is better. I think we're all back.
All right.
Statistics and with the rise of atheism, especially atheism being indoctrinated as an actual belief system and maybe to the exclusion of Christianity in some extreme cases.
No. This actually really pisses me off because in a sense, I think we should be indoctrinating people in atheism. But we should be able to be honest, even with children, to say, hey, no religion has actually met the burden of proof. Hey, no religion has actually demonstrated any, sufficient evidence of its claims. But we don't do that. And we don't do that out of respect for his punk ass religion. And this is so sincere, even in public schools where you don't have, religious instruction, you never have any sort of telling children that religion isn't true. Nobody does that. And again, it bothers me because I think there's a really good argument to be made that you should, but we don't. And we don't do it out of protecting the feelings of Christians like him who literally can't cope with people not agreeing with them. And so for him to sit here and act like we're actively teaching children that there's no God and we're actively pushing atheism on children as a belief system, this is just lies. This is literally just lies. It's just lies, and you're just a dirtbag. You're just a fucking dirtbag. And then at that point, I don't care anymore. You're lying. You're clearly lying about enough for me to now think you're a liar. And the other stuff is just you're stupid. I'm sorry, but that's what I was trying to say. Guys like this, they're either really lying or they're really stupid, and he's probably both.
I'm reminded of the hardest enemy to destroy is the one that doesn't exist. And this guy, sort of the easiest enemy to destroy, is the one you make up. Where it doesn't exist, but it's different in the sense that you are the one determining what's in the straw man. Right? This is never meant to be a strong case that he's presenting. It sounds that way. People who trust this guy will listen and internalize what he's saying as though we atheists are the ones who are evangelizing, right? I get Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons coming up and down my street, knocking on my door, wanting to share their faith. I'm not mean to a single one of them. Just not. It's not my way. But I don't see other atheists going door to door. Hi, I'm an atheist. I'd like to spread the magical world of atheism to you. It might happen for some comedy skit, but as far as day-to-day life, it's not happening. It's not. Our tool of kind of saying who we are and defining ourselves, I think that's more what atheism does. Atheists do, like, look, we'll defend and define ourselves. It's not really up to us to convince other people that we're right. That's not what we're trying to do. I think on Hot Program, we talk more about why people who believe are wrong than why we atheists are right. We simply haven't been presented with evidence that is going to satisfy our needs for belief in a God. It's that simple. There's no other baggage.
And I'm even going a little bit further than that. I'm just, we know that humans evolved. Literally, we understand human origins. We know how humans got here by facts. It's facts. Evolution is a fact. We understand it's a fact. We know how planets were formed. We know how the stars were formed. It's over. It's just over. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just over. Especially for any sort of notion of a creator God, it's over. It's over. And religious people just need to grow up. I'm sorry, but this is not going to go any other way. We're not going to wake up 20 years from now and say, you know what, maybe we're wrong about evolution. Maybe we actually were created. It's not going to happen. We're not going to discover whatever. We're not going to finalize our theory of abiogenesis and I was like, you know what, I think maybe Yahweh did it. Like it's just not going to happen. And so it just really gets I'm so tired of having to deal with these grown people who literally just won't accept reality and now want to play these word games when actuality they're the intellectuals in the room. Actually, in reality, they're the ones who are making the most reasoned arguments. They're the ones who have the evidence on their side. Like, no, y'all are children. You reason and you think like children and you behave like children who can't lose. Remember that? Everybody remembers that friend when you were growing up who couldn't lose. And so they literally would change the rules of the game in real time to keep the game going until they won.
Yeah.
And eventually, what did you do? You just said, fine, you win, and you walked away. Because it just
it's tiring.
It gets so exhausting. And that's that's where I'm a Christian. It's so exhausting. I'm so tired of the word games. This is a person who doesn't belong on the internet. Bro, you big fail. You went live in your own home and said stupid things in public. Self-inflicted wound. I know I sound mean, y'all, but like there just has to come a time where you're like, enough is enough. I'm just gonna 2 + 2 = 4. We know where humans came from. It isn't the God of the Bible. I'm really sorry. You're severely mistaken. Severely mistaken.
Hey, Pocket Locker, I can make the interview tomorrow. Sumami has put in a comment. I didn't see the bigger part of the conversation. I just see her comment. I would also not tell them that Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny are real. I tell them to work to buy those things. So they appreciate that. I knew that as a kid. So I know you want to do a parenting interview with me about my wife being a believer, me being a non-believer, and us raising a child together. So maybe things like this, I don't know if you want to work those into it as well.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just an idea. I see Sumami put that in there, and I thought it's an interesting thing because I haven't really thought about what to do about those things for my daughter. Things like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, they can be fun, but the meaning, right? The meaning is what she needs to understand. I want to tell her the truth. I want to let her know how these things are derived, and that they can be enjoyed, but that they aren't true. But I think she should have fun getting her photo taken with Santa and the Easter Bunny. But
well, yeah, that's the thing is do you tell them that, what do you tell them about the reality of these things? I think you can tell a kid these things are not true and they can still enjoy them.
yeah,
I think that much more with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny than I think with Jesus. I really don't think. I really don't think. I really think Jesus, the Christianity is a cult, and not a good one. It's not. It's not special. It's just a cult, and a lot of it is really, really gross. And so I wouldn't want a kid indoctrinated into that, because there's a lot that comes with it, and a lot of it is really, really ugly. And that's a way I don't think it's okay to play with the kid's mind. And even the Santa Claus and Easter Bunny thing, I don't know, because if you tell them it's true, then at some point you admit that it's not. And I do think I do think the kids that know or have a leg up on the other kids.
definitely.
The kids, yeah, the kids that know have the leg up. So it's interesting.
I think you'll see that those two things rise at the same time. As we remove the reasons for being alive, as we remove the purpose for people to be here, and we enter into a world
Stop. The Christianese is just killing me. Listen to this.
Christianity in some extreme cases, I think you'll see that those two things rise at the same time. As we remove the reasons for being alive, as we remove the purpose for people to be here,
as we remove the reasons to be alive, as we remove the purpose for being here. This is the shit that, like, I be wanting to tell people I find so insulting as an atheist. That, like, if I don't believe your magical bullshit, I don't have a reason to be here. I don't have a purpose to be alive. I mean, these are things that to me are like fighting words. They're like calling me the N-word. It's extremely dehumanizing language that we only let you get away with because we feel bad for you. Like, we feel bad that you're in this really pathetic state where you're dependent on these Jewish blood magic stories from thousands of years ago. And we let you get away with shit you shouldn't get away with. But nobody should be able to look you as a grown person in the face and tell you without their foo-foo stories, you have no purpose or reason to be alive. Like, it's such a dehumanizing thing to say.
Yeah. I agree. People find all manner of reasons to go on in life. Self-satisfaction, just helpful to others. We see nuns do this, right? Nuns and monks are sort of the best examples of religious devotion. They're not the priest who becomes a favorite, right, and gets all these gifts or whatever. They're just sort of behind the scenes a lot of the time, doing the heavy lifting to keep the church running. A lot of Christians aren't willing to dedicate themselves at that level because they want other things. Those other things are more their reason for being alive than their faith is. Right? Whether you're a guy who rides dirt bikes and you got 7 kids and you try to get them all into riding dirt bikes, or you're just a lineman out repairing power lines, or some FEMA employee who's just exhausted right now because they've met 600 people today, down in Florida trying to help people. There's all sorts of reasons, and faith in Christ is far from being a chief reason for most people to be alive. I don't need to do a survey. That's just a fact.
No, that's it really is. It's a really good point. And again, I hate to say it, but it calls the bluff in the same way that I say, forget heaven, forget eternity with God. Most Christians don't want to spend the afternoon with God, and we can tell by the fact that they brag about who gets out of church sooner, because in reality on Sunday they want to go watch football and whatever else they do on Sunday, brunch, shopping, rest, take a nap, whatever it is. And that's amazing. How many people literally want to get out of church on Sunday so they can go take a nap? They want to get out of church so they can go do nothing. They want to go do nothing. They would rather do nothing than worship God.
Go to the pool, cut the grass.
Yeah, they'd rather do absolutely nothing. But I think you bring up a good point in the sense of it's a myth to dedicate your life to Christ. None of them really want to dedicate their life to Christ. They don't. Not only do they not want to be in church all day on Sunday, they don't want to be serving God Monday through Saturday. There's so many other things that they fill their life with. And again, if we told them to dedicate their life 24/7 to Christ, to be like a monk or a nun, most of us would tell us that churches that do that are cults. Very interesting.
That is such a wonderful point. I'm glad you lifted that higher. It's true. People would point saying that's insane. When we have examples in the Bible of Jesus saying to the rich young ruler, hey, if you would be perfect, sell all you have, give it to the poor, and follow me. He's telling them, here's the easiest path I could give you to true dedication to the cause of Christianity. Sell it all. Give it away. He didn't say keep something for yourself. But no, he made it very clear, and so few people actually make that choice. I think it's not because they don't know. That's a commonly preached upon sermon, because why? It gets people to put money in the collection plate to keep the church going, or to buy a plane for a couple of dollars. So it's just one of those fascinating things that kind of says, I want to approach this faith casually. I don't want to be the most serious that I can.
No, that's great language. I want to approach this casually.
Mm-hmm.
I know Christians now that don't even want the miracles. They don't even want the miracles. They want to lay claim to a scientific worldview. They want to come up with naturalistic explanations for the miracles of Jesus and then claim that they're Christians. Walk around with crosses on and pray about everything. All right. Well, teach their own. Hey, Michael.
Enter into a world where you're just here by random chance. The skeptics provide questions that have no answers, which lead to depression, lead to mental health, all sorts of other issues. Christians need to be able to have apologetics.
This is dude, this is a 6-minute video. We're supposed to get out of here early. But he keeps saying stupid stuff. So again, this is stuff where I want to fight. I want to fight Christians who talk like this. Because I'm bipolar, and lots of my friends deal with mental health issues. And to be honest, it's not a joke. And then once again, it's 2024. We live in a time where mental health is supposed to be like this. I'm supposed to be able to just talk about mental health regular, on a podcast or whatever, because we're in a time where we're supposed to be normalizing mental health issues. We're supposed to be addressing them through proper treatment, medication, therapy. We're trying to make strides forward to make it so that people who deal with mental health issues can be whole, happy, and live their authentic selves. But It's actually religion specifically that acts as a cudgel in a fake mental health system. Like literally, these people will tell you when you're depressed, you need Jesus. When you have anxiety, you need Jesus. You're struggling with alcoholism, you need Jesus. Porn addiction, Jesus. Okay. And then literally, when they give their testimonies, they use mental health. I was so depressed, then I found Jesus. I hated myself and my life was so terrible, and then I found Jesus. And so they're the ones who are actually harming our mental health by pretending that their little miracle cult game is a substitute for medicine. And so then to turn around and then blame the atheist and blame non-believers and say we're somehow raising questions that don't have answers and therefore we're causing people depression. And it's not even true. Like, if we raising where do you come from, we don't know. Where are you going? We don't know. What happens after you die? Probably nothing, but we don't know. And that's causing you anxiety, that's causing you depression. If it's causing you those things, it's probably most likely because some religious people lied to you about and gave you the false expectation to actually have answers to those questions that anybody even 8 or 9 years old could tell you. That's just questions we just don't know. We just don't know. We just don't know. You just ask questions we don't have the answer to. Simple. It's pretty simple. You literally ask the question we don't have the answer to. So the only proper response is I don't know. There's nothing to lose sleep over. Ain't nothing to be stressed about. Ain't nothing to have a headache. Ain't nothing to be in crisis over. So if you're in crisis over these questions, it's because of your religious indoctrination. So it just really, really bothers me that he's going to turn around and blame a problem that his religion causes on non-religious people.
Well, again, it's that sort of he's doing his job as an apologist, right?
He's doing his job as an apologist.
He's washing his faith clean. He's essentially cleansing his faith of all its sins. Right? People do this with God. When I challenge them saying, oh, I read the Bible and I saw the cruelty of the Old Testament God and the cruelty of Jesus in the book of Revelation. And I'm like, that's not for me. I'm not party to this. Well, a lot of people, they're certainly not recalling everything I'm not saying, right? They're not in my brain. And I got all these different instances I could elaborate on. But their reaction is they believe in a merciful God. And they see Christ as merciful, making an enduring sacrifice so that they could go to heaven. The question of why God would send anyone to hell to suffer and burn for 5 seconds doesn't cross their mind. And when I bring it up, like, why would this be necessary? God has his reasons for doing the things he does. Well, then why does God allow for children? I literally addressed this last week to someone because they said, like, all things work together. God finds a way to bring victory to each and every situation. And I mentioned kids getting assaulted by priests and other members of the clergy in church. There's no comeback for that. There is no sane person has a comeback for that.
Right.
That justifies it.
And it's systematic and it's prolific.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in all denominations and it doesn't make any sense. All right, let's see what he's got.
And have these reasonable conversations to help.
Also,
people.
Thanks, Michael Beverly. Good to see you. Great video. Really appreciated being a part of that. I think it came out awesome. So,
were you part of the Christy Burke series?
No, not the Christy Burke series. This was responding to Rebecca Davis and Chris Dade, I think his name was, on slavery.
Oh.
people see the light of the gospel and Jesus and how there is a way for them. Number 3, and this is an easy one, but strengthening believers. Apologetics builds up believers. I cannot tell you how many different subjects I know more about now.
I feel the same way about this that I felt with Michael Behe. It builds them up only to be broken down. It builds them up in a fake way, like Michael Behe with intelligent design. You get Christians all into intelligent design. That might build them up. It might really make them think there's scientific basis for their stuff and there's really good. But when they get to somebody like me and I start asking them very simple questions, can you show me one peer-reviewed paper that supports intelligent design? I don't need the tens of hundreds of thousands that support evolution. I'll take one that supports intelligent design, right? And they can't produce it. That's going to be a problem. Yeah, when they realize we don't teach intelligent design in science curriculum because it's not supported by any evidence, yeah, that's going to be a problem. When they realize every credible science under the sun doesn't support it, that's going to be a problem. When they realize it's lost all of its judicial cases because it's religion and not science, that's going to be a problem. And it's going to be the same thing for apologetics. Like, yeah, it might make you think you got some stuff, especially when you in church or you're at a little church luncheon and y'all batting around your little apologetics arguments and telling each other you're doing a great job. That might work out. But once you get to YouTube or you put some of that stuff on social media or have lunch with an atheist friend and try some of that stuff out, you're going to go home with your ass handed to you. And you're going to be like, what happened? You know, so it's kind of like you were saying earlier about the scripture. I would say don't get into apologetics, because you get into apologetics and give you a false sense of confidence. It's gonna be like learning like fake martial arts. It's gonna make you think you can fight. And it would be better for you to not get into fake martial arts and then know you can't fight. If you know you can't fight, you'll avoid confrontation. Right?
Exactly.
But when you think you can fight, you're ready to throw down. Then you're gonna get your butt kicked.
You just might find yourself in a very bad situation. Yeah.
Than I used to. Not an expert, maybe, but no more, because I had to study it out because someone asked me a question. I think one of the reasons many people don't go into apologetics is they're like, what if I get asked a question that I don't know the answer to? Good. If you get asked a question you don't know the answer to, then you get to go study it for yourself. Your faith will be built because guess what? The Bible has the answer. That answer is in the Bible already. And then you'll be able to go share it with your friend. And through those conversations, that's oftentimes a doorway for the gospel to be opened. So if you don't know the answer,
this is another problem with religious thinking. They think that the answers to life's challenges can be found in a text that's thousands of years old. That was written as a piece of religious propaganda. It's a very, again, we could be friendly about it, but it's crazy. When you think about it, that is an insane expectation. It's 2024, and they think there's nothing that can come up in 2024 that can't be answered from the Bible.
We have a treasure trove in a lot of these old books, like the writings of Marcus Aurelius and Plato, the stories about Plato, and many other people, and even religions that are older than Christianity, that give us parables that we can apply to a lot of things. I'd say to most things. Maybe space exploration, you're going to come up short. Maybe a lot of things in what you study in genetics and biology, probably going to come up short.
Very short.
How to manage your family, how to manage money, you're going to be spoiled for all the choices that you have. The idea that Christianity heals all wounds is clearly mistaken. Look, there's problems Jesus didn't bother solving himself, right? Like slavery. He just let that stay in there. The God of the Bible essentially gives you rules and regulations and how you can sell your own kids and who you can buy and under what conditions. And it's just wrong in doing that, right? You can say it was a different time if you want to. That's true. And wouldn't it be great if we had better morality now than we do? Wouldn't it be great back then if they had better morality than they did? Well, I'll be honest. I would think an all-powerful, all-knowing God would be smart enough to institute some of those better rules than the awful ones that we find in the text. I don't know. I don't know everything. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, like that's, to be honest, so the slavery thing, you know, we did that video, but it does come up a lot, and it's a death knell for Christianity. How does this God not just hit them with the "thou shalt not own" people? And it's so funny because they always go to the, well, he couldn't, and there was too much of their lives, and he told them to not steal.
He told them not to eat pork.
He told them not to murder. He told them not to eat pork.
Blended fabrics.
Blended fabrics.
Don't eat the shellfish.
Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Did you think it was reasonable to expect people to stop coveting their neighbor's wife at the time? I mean, that's crazy. It's just insane. So no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
For our audience, if someone comes at you with that argument that it was different back then, just almost let them shut themselves down. Let them shut themselves down. You got to take the Socratic approach, which is asking the person questions that lead them to the conclusion that you already have, right? You're allowing them to construct their own path to understanding. And there are people, like I'd say G-Man seems to be one, who would almost fight you in the process because he wants to hold the Bible's God faultless. At least I haven't seen where he didn't. And I was in a chat with him and what's that lady's name? S.J. Thompson.
Oh, the creature.
But what's her name? I don't want to get her
name. Yeah.
S.J. Thomason. Okay. And some guy Veckel. And I'm
I know Veckel. I know
I'm
Veckel.
throwing it in there, and they're just ignoring me. La 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 la. So that way of just giving them facts often isn't going to get you where you want to be. But again, I will say one of the most important rights you have is a right not to be a part of that conversation anyway. If you just don't want to hear any of that crap, just say, I'm not really interested in this conversation. And it can end there.
And it can end there. It can end there.
And you can say, however, if you write to hellomyoneblackfriend@gmail.com, my one black friend might set you straight on this.
Yeah.
He loves talking about this stuff.
And honestly, like it's weird because I feel the Maya coming on in me, but there's a way in which, y'all know my typical MO, like I just want to be honest, like just this is silly, just leave it alone, it's not true, like I don't know what you're talking about, but the Maya in me is just like I don't care, like if like I don't know, because I don't know what to say to a person. I'm just making up a person, y'all. But I don't know what to say to a person. You're 45, you have a family, like you need to believe you're not gonna die and that you're gonna see your grandma in heaven. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like I don't do you. You know, hope if it makes you happy.
There you go.
Then why the hell are you so sad?
Let's say that. Let's call that 45-year-old guy Jeff. Jeff, it sounds wonderful, even if it's true. Even if it's true. Because
true.
you're kind of saying it isn't true.
It isn't true.
But if it is,
yeah.
It sounds wonderful, man. It sounds wonderful.
Crazy.
And I think Jeff should be able to enjoy the peace of mind. Because I think the thing we have to keep in mind, Christianity has good branding in that it says it is a personal relationship with Christ. That's what
Yeah,
they have. A personal relationship. That's a fantastic piece of branding.
it is.
So
It
if
is.
this is my personal tape, I choose who I share this with. It's not really for public consumption unless I deem it so. So their personal relationship, you can always say to them, I appreciate you being willing to share your personal relationship with Christ with me, but it's not something that interests me. But thank you so much for being caring enough to consider it. You've that person, you've done everything right, in my opinion, if you do that, because you've addressed what that person wanted to share. You showed clearly you understood it had a quite serious meaning, that they valued you knowing, which means they care about you as a person. As my ex-girlfriend said to me, they don't want you to go to hell. And they really believe there is one. So she didn't want me being too aggressive when I came back at people who were proselytizing. And I said to her, thank you, because you're right. They're approaching me from a very considerate angle. They are genuinely interested in me not going to hell. And they probably don't want me taking hell away from them. Because when I do, I take heaven away.
Heaven goes with it. Yeah.
I take what? Untold number of years.
I love the balloons.
I
never know why the balloons popped up, but that was a perfect time for the balloons to pop up. You know, my thing is, I put it.
Balloons?
There were balloons that popped up over your camera, and it's just a thing that happens sometimes. I don't even know. I don't think anybody's ever figured out when, where, or how. But so. The thing that's interesting about that is I put that to somebody recently, but I always do the flip. I always say that, like, I was a little down or a little bit like, there's no such thing as heaven. But then I always say that letting go of hell made it okay. Like that was the big thing. Like, you really just want to get rid of hell. But yeah, I do think it depends, because there are some people who I think are more motivated by heaven. For me, I was clearly more motivated by hell. I was willing to let heaven slide if it took hell with it. But you're right, there are other people who, to be honest, they've probably never even really considered hell, because they've always seen themselves as, in the favor of God or whatever. And so getting rid of heaven is really tough on them.
Yeah, they're probably not living in a way that is very unrighteous, maybe mildly unrighteous.
Yeah.
But nothing serious.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't really. Maybe I had
like
doubts about the way I was living.
Yeah, maybe not being a dangerous person, or having the cops slow down every time they drove past. That guy's up to something. But yeah, the allure of heaven is certainly intoxicating, if it's true. Even if it's true, right? But the idea of hell, it's terrifying.
Yeah, that's why I was more motivated by that. I guess also probably didn't have as much confidence. Maybe I was like, you never know. You never know. All right, let's see what else this guy's got.
Sure.
So
Next,
bad.
engaging the world. Yeah, we want to strengthen believers, but we need to engage the world. If Christians just sequester themselves into their churches on Sundays and we never share the light of Christ with anyone, and we're never interacting with our world, then we're not going to do a very good job with the Great Commission, which is reaching other people for Christ and creating disciples and baptizing them and training them and teaching them how to go out and go make more disciples.
All right, so I think the Great Commission gives them, like, whatever they want. Like, whatever you want in Christ, just take it and claim it as part of the Great Commission. I think it means literally go forth and evangelize to the people. I think it means make disciples of nations. I think it means take the government under your control. I think it means kill your enemies, whatever you want, whatever. Sorry,
I don't get government control out of that. I don't.
No, that's because we disagree, but I think they get it in the make disciples of nations. I just think they don't have to overthink it, and it's there for the ones who want it, But yeah, so for me, I'm just saying, but here's the question I really have for you. Do you think apologetics is really the beginning of the end? this is what I wonder, because like I said, they're doing all this stuff. They're sending the people out there. We know the trends, the religion sort of declining, the nuns are sort of increasing. Is apologetics going to make this any better, or is it just accelerating the trend?
I think it's accelerating the trend. I think the fact that there are inconsistencies in the story of Christianity, right? The stories of Jesus, that's the beginning of the end. The flaws are there from the jump. What year was Jesus born? Square that circle for me. It can't be done.
Yeah.
People can try. Now, wait a minute. If this isn't true, then why should I believe anything else? You can't even get his birthday right. My best friend's mom, love talking about her. She went to Jerusalem. So I don't know what they said to her on those tour buses, but she is like super duper pro Israel. Nobody over there can do none of them can do any wrong.
Oh no.
And I asked,
oh no.
I asked, like, did you get to see Jesus' tomb? And she was trying to recall where it was, because they did go somewhere. And I said, this is the church, it's in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. She goes, no, it's somewhere else. And I found that curious, and I Googled it. There's more than one.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
How can it be? So if historically, when we look today, we find conflicts like that, right? Did Jesus walk around for 50 days,
and the thing they don't
to
get,
heaven, and then come back going, I'm tired, I got to stay down here with y'all.
And the thing they don't get is that that's them. That's not non-believers conflicting. That is conflicting Christian narratives. That is these believers saying it here, these other believers saying it's here. And what do we have to do? We just noticing they can't be. He couldn't have been born both places at the same time.
That's right. Another enemy is literacy. At the time the Gospels were written, it was rare, right? Literacy was rare. What was it? Maybe 10, 11% of the people. It was certainly a small percentage who could read and write in one language. Now, pretty much every kid graduating high school can read. Another accelerant is the internet, because, and I'm not the first person to say this, a 14-year-old kid could sit in church. They got a friend that wants to transition. They have like one or two friends that are gay, and they don't feel that they're perfect all the time. They think trying to be perfect is hard. So when that priest or preacher is up there saying things that are hateful things about their friends, they can fact check them in real time. And they may not trust anything out of that guy's mouth because he's already wrong about people they care about. So the fact that when you combine all of those things, the church is on fire.
Okay. You just brought up something. Okay, but this is my thing, and we should do a whole episode on this. But basically, another reason the jig is up for Christianity is they can't lead the dance morally. They can't, and they never have. Again, so kind of brought this up when I was talking to Michael, but it's like the push for women's equality was against the church. The push to extend that to all people was against the church, right? The push to end slavery was against the church. The push, right? So all of these things means they've never been able to be that beacon on the hill. We've never been able to look and say, oh, what are the Christians doing? Let's follow them, and the world becomes a better place. Instead, it's always us making the world a better place against them and literally having to drag them until they finally say, okay. And for the most part, they never even really say okay, right? There's still churches that to this day will never have a woman minister, or women are not in certain positions of leadership. There are churches that to this day do not accept gay people, or will not ordain them, or will not marry them. Some form of sanctioned institutional exclusion, right? There are still churches to this day that are supporting these bills that they know are about suppressing the black vote. And pastor gets up and preaches and gives his support for them candidates in the goddamn pulpit on Sunday morning. It's just almost, again, hilarious to me that they keep pretending that what they get from this is moral when, like you said, a basic teenager in 2024, before they even walk through the door, they know enough to know that they don't agree with the morality of the church.
Exactly. Now, fortunately, we all have met a Christian who, again, I wish I knew what chapters and which verses it was in Ezekiel. It seems to be a predictor of Christ, of Jesus coming along and forgiving sins, cleansing sins, making up for the sins of the Father, right? Making up. As I was listening to it, I listened to it on audiobook one day, and I'm thinking, hey, that sounds like Jesus would come to be sacrificed for God's sin. The Son is paying for his Father's sins, making things right. Because when you think about it, if you're Jewish, you're going to Sheol after you pass away. And there's sort of this open door. Y'all just come on in. We take if you're Hebrew, come on, get on in here. Come on. We love you. Come on down. And we can see why that would be a lovely thing, where they're welcome and they're welcome in, and they're not treated horribly for that, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know where if it says like, oh, if you did XYZ, you're gonna get your butt kicked.
But you also have to think like this is an all-powerful God who literally, and again, it's such a silly story. Like, this is the thing we have to start telling Christians. This is a really silly story, and we don't believe it. Because how can an all-powerful God not bear the burden of forgiveness? The true story that would even make Christianity more believable, it'd be a whole different story because there would be no sacrifice of Jesus. But it would have been for God to so love the world that he forgave us. Forgiveness means bearing the cost. If you have you have a puppy and the puppy poops on the carpet and you forgive the puppy because you're trying to potty train it and that's against the rules, it doesn't make the poop go away. You've got to clean it up and do whatever you got to do. You'll learn the same thing with your child. Like when your child will do something, break something, do something wrong. If you can choose to discipline them. Hey, you're on timeout, go to your room, no revoke a privilege, whatever it is. But a lot of times you'll choose to forgive them. If you choose to forgive them, you still are they broke the thing. They ate the cookies. They pooped themselves on the floor or whatever it is. Whatever it is, you bear that cost. That's the power of forgiveness, is I choose to bear the cost of the thing you did to me and still love you, let it go anyway. This God is not forgiving when he's like, I must have justice. I must have justice. Fine, I'll murder the innocent one. Like there's nothing about that is a lovely, beautiful story of forgiveness. And we can do this as people. We forgive as people. What kind of sense does it make that this all-powerful God can't just forgive?
Right. We can agree. Mercy might be better than justice for some people.
For most things, it is.
For Adolf Hitler.
Wait, hang on a second, real quick. You said just quickly. You said the kid comes into the church and they have a gay friend and there was something else, and then you said and they know they're not perfect. That's why the mercy is better, because it's more humane. We recognize our own imperfection in others.
That's right. That's right. If you have an Adolf Hitler, maybe you don't give that guy mercy. But if you have someone else who stole food so they could feed their family or themselves, you do. Maybe you should. If you have someone who, there's a thing I saw, maybe it's on Instagram or YouTube Shorts, where a guy got convicted of, I think he robbed a store, and he was waiting to go to prison because he had his trial. He was supposed to go to prison. Well, they're supposed to pick him up, and they never did. So 13 years goes by. He has a family. He starts a business. He becomes like a very helpful member of the community. And when they went to release him from prison, they found out he was never there. So they went and arrested him to take him to prison. And the judge says, time served. This guy turned his life around. This is who we want. We want people like this guy walking around in society. So let's not punish him for getting on the right path.
Mm.
You know, he figured it out without a prison. He didn't need prison walls to come to his senses. He figured it out. There's a victory for everybody. We can agree, right? Most of us, from the time we're young to when you say, let's say you reach your 30s, there's a whole lot of things that now you won't do again because you figured out that's not beneficial for me. That's not what I'm trying to do with my life. When you figure out what you want to do with your life and you finally get to a position where you can start achieving that, it feels different than you don't know how you're going to make it through next week. So you go rob a store or you steal, right? Or you inject this into your veins just to get like 10 minutes where you don't have to feel how awful things are.
Yeah, yeah.
But you certainly don't need God saying, oh no, somebody stoked a fire down there in hell. I got so-and-so lined up for entry, you know.
No, we don't need this crap. All right, let's let this guy go.
We are called to engage the world around us, and apologetics is one of the fastest courses into that. I'm not talking about two guys in a podium who are yammering at each other and no one knows who wins. I'm talking about when I go out and I want to witness to people and they need to have real conversations about their faith. Apologetics provide that foundation of defense for me. And then lastly, and this is the fifth one, and I told you I had an answer for you that I think might surprise you. And that is, I think the more we look at our world, the more we look at how crazy it is, and we see some of the agendas being pushed by radical groups that's trickling down very quickly, there's a complete loss of objective truth.
Whoa. All right. So that was a lot because that was where he shows his conservative hand and, you know, it's sort of we need apologetics because it's going to stop the woke. We got to fight the woke.
But Jesus was woke.
Yeah, but now Jesus is going to help us fight the radical agendas. And then
literally was the radical agenda in his time.
And then he hit us with the because without this they've lost objective truth. Like, oh my goodness.
Now, can you define
goodness.
Can you, I know you're not him. The right thing to do is to ask him to define objective truth. What does that mean? What does objective truth mean?
I don't think it means anything. I'm not even going to entertain it because, like I said, it's a conversation we only have with apologists, which means it's nothing. If it's only a conversation, here's how I judge these things. If it's only a conversation because apologists keep bringing it up, then it's actually part of a defense for religion. Does that part make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because they're only talking about it, so it's part of their tactic. So it's a defense of religion. If it's a defense of religion, it's really a conversation about theology. So I don't need to entertain it because we're already talking about magic. And so I find this to be the case because if you think about it, nobody else talks about objective and subjective truth. That's only they do. We do like, is it true or not? If I told you,
excuse me 1 second. I'm going to mute myself.
If I tell you the Cowboys, beat the Steelers by 14, you're gonna look it up and see if that's true or not. And that's it. There's there's like true and not true. That's it. That's all that's practical for most of us. Subjectively true, you're already trying to do something I don't like. You're already going to, oh, I'm in my religious land and there's different truths and there are some truths we all share, but some truths that are personal. Like, nah. But yeah, that's my only thing. Is just that in reality land, there's just true or not, and
Right.
all these special qualifiers of truth are only useful to apologists.
Well, I'll say I agree with you. Not everybody needs a fire truck, but the fire department probably should have one. So yeah, not everybody needs the term objective truth, but apologists do.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. That's their fire truck for sure.
Yeah, they need that. I don't think it's the panacea that they think it is.
I also want to say
Right.
this. It's fundamentally anti-science. It is, and I know that sounds a little bit weird, but it's the idea of like, he knows that most people would say the scientific method is the best thing we have to get us at what approximate objective truth. And so he's trying to turn this around and actually say, no, religious apologetics is what we need to get us objective truth. And without religious apologetics, we can't have objective truth. And this is why, and I really do feel like when people say this type of thing, this is where they reveal their hand, that they don't like education. They don't like science. And it ties right back to what he said earlier when he was now in school the entire time they're teaching you there's no God. These people are angry about education. They're mad about learning. They hate learning. Learning makes them really upset. They hate what goes on in schools. They hate science. They hate public officials relying on science and education to make public health choices or public policy decisions. Like, and again, it's really hard to figure out how do you cooperate with people like this to make the world a better place, because we don't seem to even agree that that's the common goal.
Yeah, I think I think making the world a better place should be a common goal. Now, if we ask him what's the path to that, he'd probably say, well, there need to be more Christians, or he'd use
revival.
some Christian ideas. But using Christian ideas aren't necessarily bad. It's when you're trying to say, well, we need to force everybody to be a Christian.
Right.
You need to force them? That isn't the path either, because it's just not for everybody. I have in my closet upstairs multiple sizes of pants. And it's not because I can fit them all. At one point in time, I was thinner. It was spectacular. So rather than throwing those pants out, I desire to get myself back down to a weight where I can still fit those pants. When I can be consistent in that, I can then give away the other pants because they just won't be necessary. Everything doesn't work for everybody at every point in time. We have to understand that, because everything doesn't work for the same person at every point.
Right.
One of my marketing teachers, he said this early on in our classes: if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you. And I think what needs to happen to make the world a better place is we all need to imagine together what we want that place to be like. And then we all need to decide what our workload is going to be in that. We need to break up in teams, and our teams do their part to get us there. It's not saying that, well, my religion is superior. Clearly, this is the superior way. It isn't. It isn't, because you don't have a perfect person in that church. Not one. And you're not going to. And that's okay, because the rest of us aren't perfect either. But that doesn't mean we can't get to where we want to be. And when we get there, he can still be a Christian. I can still be an atheist, right? The imam can still be an imam. The Buddhist can still be a Buddhist. None of us have to give up, that sort of thing.
See, the thing that's really interesting about this guy is, he started sort of in apologist land, sort of routine defensive apologetics. But to me, here towards the end, he's really making a turn, and at the end, a hard turn towards the political. He's really like, hey, we got to fight these radical ideologies that are trying to take over society. So it's, he's one of these people that I think, like so many Christians, they're swept up in the culture war right now. And I think that's another big problem for them. I think paired with apologetics, it's interesting. Like those are two things I think are really harming Christianity right now.
Well, I think the woke ideology thing, when examined, as you and I have done here on Hot Program, we find out that Jesus was woke. I think the prospect to that, to some of these people who are like, they're anti-woke when they can't even explain what woke is. They might be able to make 1 or 2 points, but they can't make 10.
Right.
They can't make 5. And maybe woke is not that deep. Maybe it's not 10 points deep. But they probably they probably will like most of what they hear because they want it for themselves. Right? I'm not on this planet to beat up on anybody's ethnicity. I'm not. I spend 0 time per day doing it. I've been that way my whole life. It's not worth it. I think good and bad people come in all shapes and sizes and colors. They just do. That's always been true as far as I know.
All right, let's see. Let's keep going.
Go ahead.
And my 5th answer is truth matters. It does matter. And I think many people know that truth matters and they're locked into their belief system and that's what they think is truth. But I think it's really important for us to be secure and inviting to the truth. We don't want to be upset and hateful and mean to people that don't believe the way we do just because they don't have truth. We need to realize that the truth is something that sets people free. The truth is a person.
Stop. Did you catch what he said?
We don't need to be mean to people who don't believe the way we do.
Just because they don't have
truth. Just because they don't have truth, yeah.
Okay. Required reading. Before you get baptized, look, Jesus clearly didn't come back already. So before you get baptized, they should be required to read the entire biblical text.
They'll never do that.
And for giggles, the Apocrypha. But I'm just saying, the Bible should have set it up that way, but they didn't. When we go into the biblical text, what we see is people being converted on the spot. Right? The Ethiopian eunuch. Look, well, actually, that's a bad example because the Ethiopian eunuch was studying the Bible. When he ended up saying he met the Christian, right? I forget which one it was, and said, look, there's water. Let's go baptize me now. That's enthusiasm. And many people have become Christians with similar enthusiasm, but without the studying.
Right.
So if all you're doing is signing up, getting your membership card, is that enough? Is that enough? You're just adding to the numbers and it's another one with a label, but there's work involved. According to the biblical text, according to that Great Commission, I almost say Great Commission, but then again, they are harvesting from the vine. So maybe I can say Great Commission. They're supposed to go out there and make more disciples. There's work to do. It's not supposed to be passive. Although most people who do believe in the Christian God and call themselves Christian have a very passive, personal relationship with God.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For us, and we want to invite other people to know the truth. I think sometimes, especially conservative Christians,
It's just the gaslighting, you know.
We should circle the wagons and stay away from that evil, terrible world, and we should realize that we know the truth that can set them free from their slavery to sin and the devil and all the things that are oppressing them.
Oh my goodness.
When I see someone behaving or living in a way that is completely anti-God and evil, I need to realize that person doesn't know the truth. The truth is Jesus, and I should invite them into it. So when we talk about why apologetics matter today, they matter today because the Great Commission is still out there. Because Jesus still has his followers being salt and light in the earth. But what I want you to think about is how apologetics apply to you. You need to be an apologist, and either you'll be a good one or you'll be getting to be a better one, or maybe you need to learn some. But there's a lot of tools out there for you to get started with. If you want to comment on this video, I'd love for you to share what apologetics resources have been most helpful to you and what your experiences have been, and I'll reply back to them as I can.
It's interesting that he talks about the need for apologetics, but doesn't give any particular apologetics that you need.
Which, it was kind of a commercial for a product you can't buy. As seen on TV. Well, how do I get this? Well, you should have got it when you saw it on TV.
Yeah, I think he's. I mean, I guess he thinks you're going to come back and get the apologetics, or you already know where to find the apologetics. But
that could be, yeah, that could be.
I don't know. I just think. I mean, he definitely made his case, but in a sense, so yeah, we said apologetics do matter, but not for the reason he thinks they do. And I think in the end, we sort of landed on the same page, where I like the fact that he's going to keep telling his people, you have the truth, the truth, the truth. Nobody else has the truth. And that's going to send them out into the world. And then that's when they, they're going to be trapped. They're going to be like, oh, now you're going to deal with people who actually do have the truth, and they do know the truth, and they do have the evidence, and they do have reasoned arguments. So I think in the end, he's helping bring about the end of Christianity, but he doesn't realize it.
That could be, because the people who will flock to him to check things out, eventually they're going to come across somebody like you or myself who will ask questions, and their answers were supposed to answer those questions, but in the moment they don't. And again, audience members, if you are, well, believer or non-believer, go ahead and turn it into a Socratic process where you get that person, you lead them through the steps you already went through by getting them to provide answers to those questions that will help them arrive there, rather than them staying lost in their truth. And it is a truth that condemns you just for being yourself.
Yep.
Not worth it.
Not worth it. Not worth it. I don't even see the appeal. It's very hard for me to understand the appeal of this faith anymore.
I think it's community. I think and community is a wonderful thing. For instance, it's been a rough year for me financially. I got Christian friends from 20 plus years ago. Let me know if you need anything. And one of them, I loaned her husband, her ex-husband now, the money to go on a date with her 20 some years ago. And she said, I want you to keep sending me pictures of your baby, because as you need things, I'm just going to send them to you. Okay. She's raised her 3 kids. Yeah, I'll just send them to you. I'll just keep them, keep it coming. Keep it coming. All right, that's fine. They're all types, right? Some people won't do a darn thing, and that's okay right. too. But there are those people like her who just like, she's been blessed, as she would say, more than most. And she is so happy to give, but not just to me. She would do that with anyone, not just me. So they're out there. But I'm a non-believer who's like that. If I got it to share, I'm sharing.
Right, right.
I'm not trying to keep it all for myself. I know that's not fun.
No, it's not. All right, y'all, let's get up out of here. I got to try to fix these glasses. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Oh, they broke right as we were going live, so I'm trying to figure something out.
Can I give myself a plug, Pocket Locker?
Yeah.
Can I give myself a plug? Okay. So I started to post a few videos about my truck. Eventually that channel is going to become more, at least I wanted to, about the financial side of restoring a vehicle. But the hashtag is 1957 Sunburn Truck, all together. Hashtag, so pound sign 1957 Sunburn Truck, and you'll see those videos on there if that's something you're interested in. One of my videos had like 800 views. I'm like, you got to be kidding.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
Good job.
Good job. I can't tell you what it's on. I don't even remember. But anyway, there's only like 14 videos there. There will be more as time goes by. I'm going to work on the truck a little today until my back tells me you go in the house and you play with your child. So.
PC dropped the link for us. Thank you so much, PC.
Thank you.
All right, and as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment if you're watching later. We appreciate all that good YouTube stuff.
Yes.